Welcome back, everyone, to Agile Talks Episode 2. In this Agile Talk series, we will discuss all things about Agile and learn from industry experts their experience and how they implement Agile practices within their organization. It's my pleasure to have Norhidayah as our Agile expert for this episode. So I do have a list of questions and also discussion points for you today, Norhidayah. But
Yep.
before we start our discussion, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe your role at your current company?
All right. First of all, thanks, Jeremy, for inviting me into this interview sessions. It would be an honor to me as one of the speaker in this episode two. All right. So my name. So I think as Jeremy mentioned, so my name is Norhidayah. And currently, I'm working as a Scrum Master. I'm working in one of the company in Malaysia, which is based in the Bangsa South, Orsted, doing the renewable energy. And I've been working as a Scrum Master in the past 7 years. So this year is
Wow,
actually 2023. It's my 7 years, entering my 7 years as a Scrum Master, I would say, which is dealing and also that experience with Agile. But I wouldn't say that it that I'm having enough knowledge about it, because Agile, we're talking about Agile, is always a continuous learning. We need and there's
definitely.
more the experts on it, right? Yeah, so that's about me, just a short summary.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you so much. So I understand that you actually started your career as a project engineer, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, correct.
So I was just wondering at that time, were you actually using agile practices for managing some of your projects, or maybe it's more of like the conventional, waterfall approach?
Yeah, so when I'm working in my first company, which is in Huawei, so just now you mentioned about the project engineer, so that is actually
Yeah.
my first career journey. And during that time, so I was using a methodology with waterfall, which is a
Hmm.
traditional projects. And frankly said, when it's actually my first time knowing Agile, it was 2016 back then. 2016. So that is when I working in a room. So that is actually my first time knowing Agile. And during that time, right, I was like, okay, what is this Agile? Of course, it's not so popular in
Yeah.
during that time, right? And then like everyone is whoever that doing the project,
Hmm.
of course they will be dealing with waterfall methodology. And
Yeah.
also the Scrum Master, even the Scrum Master role, not that popular during that time. So everyone is that just knowing about the project manager, project coordinator, and those things. So that is actually my first time, and that is where I started my journey, knowing Agile and learning
Mhm.
about Agile and practicing Agile.
I
Yep.
see. So it's because of the company that you actually joined after that. They
Yep.
were actually adopting like some agile frameworks. That's why you start to learn about agile that time, is it?
Yes, correct. So
I
I
see.
was lucky. I was lucky because when I joined that organization, so it's totally new to me,
Mm,
and they already started adapting Agile. But I would say that it's not 100% they implemented Agile in a sense, but it's more on hybrid. They do have project manager, but they don't have a Scrum Master, a
mm,
dedicated role as a Scrum Master. But I would say that they also like recently during that time there was recently adapting to Agile. So that is where I started to been very curious. Okay, what is this Agile? Why are we delivering those things in every 2 weeks? And then what is this? That I've been very curious during that time, because
mhm,
when I joined, I was just blindly followed with
mhm.
whatever the setup that already had. And I think that is actually my very first time I'm falling in love with this approach. And then that is where I started to know, okay, I thought there's always a waterfall, but
Mm,
there's another approach that we can do, which is Agile, for us to deliver the project as well. Yeah.
I see. Okay. So maybe let's talk more about Scrum now, since we
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
introduced about Agile, but let's focus on Scrum. But for some of the audience that may not know about Scrum, maybe in your own words or experience, can you please explain what Scrum is and how can Scrum actually bring value for a team or even an organization?
Okay. All right. Great questions, because this is what people will always confuse. Okay, what is Agile? What is Scrum? And even myself, I'm always confused with these two words, right? So
Mm,
just now I mentioned Agile. So Agile, it's the meaning itself for Agile is actually the iterative and also the incremental approach for us to do the project management other than
mm,
waterfall just now. And Scrum. So what is Scrum? So Scrum is actually a framework or a methodology that Agile it's actually promotes. So it's not only Scrum, but there are other frameworks as well or methodology that it's available. If you guys are also familiar with Kanban and
yeah.
then our Lean, Extreme Programming, and
Mm,
Safe framework. So there's a lot of other frameworks as well that is implementing the Agile principles. So that is actually the first things that we need to understand what is actually Agile and what is actually Scrum. All right.
mm,
Yeah. So Scrum itself, like to me, because I use Scrum framework during
yeah.
the 2016 when I worked in Esro, and the tools that is available, we use Jira. So tools, so that is another topic, right? When we talk about tools, so there's a lot of
Yeah.
tools that we can use, like ADO, there are Arzu, Jira, Confluence, yeah, you name it. So there's a lot. And how we do about this Scrum. So there's just now I mentioned about the iterative, the incremental. So they do have their own ritual, which is like per sprint. It can be like one sprint to four sprints, so which is within a month.
Mm,
So that is actually the cycle.
yeah.
And then they do have their own daily stand up. So this is all the rituals that we are talking about in Scrum, like the daily stand up just now we mentioned, and then the sprint review and
Yeah.
sprint retrospective. And all this ritual, the ceremonies itself, they do have the time box.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah. And also the Scrum team, when we talk about the Scrum team, it's always with the product owner. So they do consist with product owner, the developers, and also the Scrum Master. Yeah, so
yeah.
so that is actually the Scrum itself, that what is consists of Scrum, and then how the ritual and also that the activity that we will do during that during the sprints. Yeah, so
Understand.
that just a summary that I would say, because Scrum, Kanban, or whatever that we are talking about the framework, they do have their own topics and also discussions and more elaborations that we would apply for that.
Yeah, definitely. But like what you mentioned, because you did mention that in Scrum, there are three roles, right? So you said product owner, the developers, and then the Scrum Master. So I
Yep.
understand that right now you're acting as a Scrum Master for your current company as well. Could you
Yes.
also share with us maybe your current role? What are the responsibilities or daily tasks like being a Scrum Master for your team or the company?
Okay. All right. So that was my previous experience, which is I use Scrum as our framework. And
Mhm,
now in my recent organizations, which is I work with Orsted. So
mhm,
this is my first, the expose to SAFe framework. So currently I'm using
mm,
SAFe. Yeah.
okay.
The full name of SAFe is the Scale Agile Framework. Yeah, so that is for the scale agile framework, which is it provides guidance as well. Same meaning, which is they wanted to apply the agile principles and then
Mhm,
practices. But this is different with Scrum, because Scrum they just more focusing on the dedicated team, which is just one
okay.
team or maybe a small project. But Safe it's applied to the large scale software development, and also for the complex product development. So example, what I mean with the scale agile
Mhm,
framework, it's if we do have a multiple Scrum teams, or in Safe we call it as agile teams, and single agile team which is still consists the same, like product owner is the same roles as well. We do have a
mhm,
product owner, we do have developer, and we do have Scrum Master.
mhm,
But how Safe is actually works is they do have multiple agile teams. So meaning that we do have Scrum Team 1 and then Scrum Team 2, Scrum Team 3. So this is why it
mhm,
called skill framework, right? So currently
mhm,
I'm using the Safe, but how it works is still the same as Scrum, which is that still do have 2 week sprint. But somehow
mhm,
for the sprint cycle, it really depends on the organizations how they wanted to do. Some of people they use 2 weeks, some of them they use 3 weeks, some of them they use a month.
Yeah.
And yeah, so what just now your question is what is actually my roles
Mhm.
as a Scrum
Yeah.
Master in my company, right? So back to that question. So the responsibility and the roles, of course, my main responsibility, I would facilitating. So I will be facilitating the Scrum events. I have
Mhm.
already touched about it in earlier, which is they do have their own ritual, like sprint planning. Just now we mentioned, and the daily stand up, sprint review, and also the sprint retrospective. And of course, all of this, they do have their time box. And what is actually the focusing, or the things that we wanted to achieve is actually the desired outcome. So that's why Scrum Master, the control, not to say control, but then they help to facilitate, and also that brings the goals together for all the events.
Mm.
And other than that, it's impediments, removing the impediments.
Yeah.
Because the Scrum Master, I think in the previous version, they mentioned that the Scrum Master also acts as a servant leader, which is
Yeah.
to help the team to work, or maybe that they need to remove. So the Scrum Master is like remove the obstacles and whatever that the impediments that hinder the team's progress. So that is what the removing impediments. So that it can address, or maybe that ensuring that the team can work without any interruption. So that would be the
Mm.
second role, or the responsibility that Scrum Master needs to do. And of course, the main role, or the main things that Scrum Master needs to do, always guiding the Scrum team.
Mm.
How we guide is like because we are the Scrum Master, right? So we know about Scrum, the basic fundamentals, and then what is the Agile principles, and how is this Agile practices. Because not everyone knowing about Scrum and knowing about the framework itself. So that is
Yeah.
where the role coming in together. So the Scrum Master, of course, they need to help the team,
Mhm.
and of course the organizations and the stakeholders, to make them understand how the Scrum should work, and then like what the benefits of having all these rituals, right? And
Mm.
because we wanted to always encourage them for the continuous improvement. So that is what Agile always foster, and always giving the benefits to it.
Mm.
And other than that, like ensuring collaboration, because when we use Agile, we need to understand what would be the benefit in using Agile. So Agile itself, it's introducing to us, and or foster us the collaboration. So when we talk about the collaboration, we can think about what's the different with the traditional way and also Agile, because Agile is focusing more on the collaborations. So collaborations is with the developer, with the product owner, with the business owner, and also with the customer, so that we can get instant feedback. We can get a direct feedback from the customer. If the customer said, "Oh no, I don't want this," and then so we adapt to the changes. So we are
Mm.
always that foster the changes based on this approach. So compared to the traditional, of course, that you already built, example, build a house. And then suddenly the customer said, "No, this is not the design that I want." Then how? So yeah, so that's always the things, right? So that's why uh, all these sprints and then all the rituals we are talking about, of course, they do have their own benefit,
Mm.
and why in the sense that we need to do all this, right? Because we are fostering the collaboration just now. Uh, and then coaching and mentoring, of course. So Scrum
Yeah.
Master, other than the, because people used to think that, oh, Scrum Master is the team leader. Scrum Master is another name for the project manager, but actually it's not. So Scrum Master, it's more on the coaching and also the mentoring. We can call as a teacher as well. So like now I'm with you, right? So we are that always enhance our knowledge, always level up, and also that
Mhm.
whenever just now I mentioned about guiding the Scrum team, so we always have in that positions to coach the team and to coach whoever that the stakeholders and even the organizations, and even like we sharing informations with other Scrum Masters as well from the other projects. So that is always the role that required from the Scrum Master themselves.
Mm.
Yeah.
So,
So
so, so, as your role as a Scrum Master with your current team or the current organization, right? Are you also involved in terms of like doing the daily solution development? Are you involved in that as well, or just purely acting as a role of a Scrum Master?
Yeah, so I'm purely just hold my role as a Scrum Master,
Hmm.
and would there be any technical
Yeah.
discussions and I would still involve, but then it's more on just facilitating. But then I don't
Okay.
have a decisions that to do, that any decisions maker. So of course that will
Hmm.
be leave it to the team and also the solution architect, because that is why we foster that the team needs to be a self-organized, and
Hmm.
also if there is any that the discussions is required to be in, so they can talk directly with the solution architect. But I don't have a decisions that to make in any technical. Yeah, it's just more on the facilitating.
Okay. And what are the challenges that you frequently face being a Scrum Master, if you can share?
Yeah.
Maybe not just this company, even like before, the company before and things like
Yeah.
that. Mm.
Yeah, so I've mentioned about, like, I've already entering my 7 years, so of course,
Yeah.
and I'm facing about three previously with different companies.
Hmm.
And each of these companies, of course, there's a lot of different experiences and different challenges that I have faced previously.
Yeah.
So, and if I'm talking about the current company, so I was lucky because when I joined them, so they're already matured. The maturity level on Agile, so it's already high. So that not much, I would say. The challenges
And that helps a
that
lot.
I'm facing, yeah. So that helps a lot. So I just need like to improve on the collaborations and then what we can do next. But then the previous experience that I had in the previous company, so because it's a new to them, for them to
Hmm.
start transform from the traditional way to the agile. So yeah, of course, I can tell you there's a lot. So what is actually the challenges previously that I was facing? Of course, when people already in their comfort zone, or they're already like using waterfall for about 20 years or 30 years, they would say, and then suddenly you as a scrum master like coming in and you say, okay, so here's agile, so we use agile. So that the changes, of course,
Yeah.
we can say that, okay, why we need to use agile, what is the benefit of using agile, why we can just live with the previous way, the previous approach, because somehow we already do the business about 20, 30 years, so nothing,
Yeah.
no issue, right? So of
Yeah.
course, so yeah, I think in this part, so that would be the most challenging, because we need to that train the teams, and then that giving them to know about what is the benefit of it. So the educational that we need to educating the teams and coaching the stakeholders and
Yeah.
overcoming the resistance
True.
for them to change, right? So
Yeah.
that it's I'm talking about the agile maturity.
Yeah.
And of course that the strong support from the leadership, the leadership team, and also the stakeholder engagement, that would much help when the organization is about new to adapt to agile.
Hmm.
Yeah, and also that the team dynamics. So if the team is already that already a high performing team, so maybe they're already in self-organizing team, I would say that not much conflicts, and also it will give you a smoother way, right, for you to be a
Hmm.
scrum master. But however,
Yeah.
if the teams they do have varying levels of agile knowledge, conflicting personalities, or
Yeah. Yeah.
resistant to change, of course, they may
Yeah.
require a lot of efforts for you to, make it in line, and also, yeah, a lot of changes, and also the efforts that you need to make sure that it is not like forcing, because Scrum is not about forcing people that,
Yeah.
oh, you must follow this, must follow. No. So we must tell them what is the beauty when do this agile, and what is the outcome or the output that we are looking for, and what would be the benefit. So I think that is the most things that, yeah, we need to inform them, we need to tell them and educate them
Yeah.
if we wanted to implement that. Yep.
So resistance to change, I would say, is one of the very like common challenges, right, for
Correct.
most Scrum Master, because I do actually hear this a lot from some of like my colleagues and also my friends as well, who are
Yeah.
actually Scrum Masters. So yeah, and then so you have many experience being the Scrum Master for different companies, right, as you mentioned. So I'm just wondering, are the practices in different companies very different, or most of them are actually the same? They're actually following the Scrum guide, or events.
Yeah.
How did they conduct the events? Is it very different?
Not much different. So I would say because previously I was using Scrum and
Mm-hmm.
now I'm using Safe. So the
Mm.
difference is only the scale. So just
Yeah.
now I mentioned Scrum. Scrum is more specific to one team.
Mm.
And like now, I'm using Safe, which is it's a scale framework, right? So which is currently we do have about 5 to 6 team, but the ceremonies and how the framework is still the same, which is we are still using the sprint cycle, about 2 week sprint cycle, and then by the end of the sprints, we still do have a demo of sprint review and the retrospective. So the ritual would still be the same. Yeah, it's just
Mm.
that whether the teams. It's multiple teams or it's a dedicated team. So I think, at least for my experience, it would still be the same.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I do have another interesting question which I would like to ask you as well. So, what
Yep.
are your thoughts on adopting Scrum, but not 100% according to the Scrum guide? Do you think that is okay, or do you think we should follow the Scrum guide 100%?
Okay. All right. So that is very a great question because examples like myself, I'm also not that experienced as I've mentioned. So Scrum guide or the Scrum book, right? So
Mm.
why do we use it as a guideline? And I would say that we can use it as a guideline and also as a reference to us. It's not always that, oh, this is not following the book, so we can't do this, we can't do this, we can't do that. So because we are
Mm.
dealing with a human, right? We are dealing with a
Yeah.
human, and then we are dealing with a lot of situations, different situations. So of course we need
Mm.
to adapt whatever that we think that it could cope on whatever that the Scrum is actually that's suggesting to you. And
Mm.
that is actually interesting because in my previous, just now I mentioned about hybrid. So
Yeah.
we do have project manager, but we don't have a Scrum Master. But the things that we using or we implement is only the Scrum framework, which is we work 2 week sprint, and then we do have demo. So only that. But somehow that's out of that Scrum, we still that reporting to our leadership, and then still a lot of other that the interruption from the outside of the Scrum team. And
Mm.
it really depends. Like if you're asking me, that it really depends on how the organizations are working and how
Mm-hmm.
is the project. Because when we talk about agile, normally that we encourage for the software development,
Mm.
and but somehow it not may be applied to all projects type. So examples, if you're working for a unique challenges like regulated industry, right? With a
Yeah.
highly regulated industry such as finance, healthcare, which is required compliance considerations, or maybe a project that involving distributed teams. So there's a lot of complex dependency, which
Mm-hmm.
is may required us, that is some things that we may not follow exactly as what is Scrum. But of course, the basic things like the fundamentals things just now,
Yeah.
what's agile is actually that guiding us, like we're talking about the collaboration, fostering that transparency, when we're talking about that those kind of the benefits that agile. Of course we
Yeah.
can deviate from that, not much deviate, but yeah, it depends on the organization, also the project.
Mm.
But I would say it shouldn't be like 100% we must follow the book, but it's more on the guideline and also the reference that we can use.
Understand.
Yeah.
So as long as like the important or the core values of Scrum or
Right.
Agile, you're abiding or you're following that, adhering to that, then it's completely fine, right?
Yeah. Different people may have a different thoughts and
Yeah.
different comments on it. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think at least for me, yep. So that is what I suggest. Yeah,
Okay.
and my
Okay.
comment.
And then another question I have for you is that what do you think is the most important skills or like the skills generally to become a good or effective Scrum Master?
Yeah. All right. So I think the first thing, of course, when we talk about the role itself for the Scrum Master, right? I think the basic fundamental, or the one common misconceptions. I wanted to touch this first before I comment on that,
Yeah.
right? Because people used to have a misconceptions about Scrum Master. So when they sing a Scrum Master, of course, they will always think, oh, so this is a project manager, right? And then they said, okay, and also the other misconception, okay, so this is my team leader, so this is my admin, like can help me with all these tools, with all the system here and there. Yeah, and then I think you yourself, I mean, yourself as a Scrum Master, you need to know that. You need to understand what is the Scrum Master roles. What
Mhm.
exactly that you wanted to do? What is that exactly that your goals for you to being a Scrum Master? Of course, being a Scrum Master, that the primary focus that for you to facilitating the agile process and for you to fostering the collaboration. So I mentioned a lot about these collaborations and removing impediments. So this is the main goal for you to be a Scrum Master, so that the team can deliver the value or deliver the projects, or even that delivering the product with a high quality by end, or a working realizable item. So that is actually the main focus for you to be a Scrum Master. So that's why the Scrum Master role, of course, as a coach as well. So it's not like you are having authority or directing the team. You must follow here and there. So you yourself, you need to understand about the fundamentals on this agile,
Mhm.
and also that how the Scrum Master should do and also should work. So I think you're asking me about what it needs to have.
The
Of course, you need
skills. Yep.
the skills itself. So like you need to understand about the understanding the agile principles. So that would be the first thing just now.
Mhm.
Understanding the agile principles and what is actually the benefits, and the agile frameworks you need to understand. And of course, it's not always a perfect when your first time being a Scrum Master, and then you expecting that I would be a perfect Scrum Master. So it wouldn't be that way. And of
Mhm.
course, practical experience. So agile, it's all about the best learn through practice and also the
Yep.
hands-on experience. So it maybe not works now, and then it would be working in the future, or you always need to adapt to it. So it's
Mhm.
really just now mentioned about, it's really depends about how the people or the team that you're working with, how is the situation. So you need to adapt to it.
Mhm.
And of course, like continuous learning and also improvement. So you need to have that sense, or you need to have that strong ability for you to keep on continuous. So it doesn't mean that you're already certified, maybe with even with PSM3 or with Agile coaching, whatever that certifications already had, and then the
Mhm.
learning stops there. So it doesn't mean that way. So as a Scrum Master, of course, you need to always keep continuous learning. And of course, you always need to improve yourself, keep reading the blogs, or maybe that connected to other expertise, the agile coaches, and the community themselves. So because everyone have a different experience, a different thoughts and
Yep.
ideas, so we can keep on changing the ideas. So I think it's all about fostering learning, and also level up yourself when being a
Mhm.
Scrum Master. Yeah, you need to have that that patience in being a Scrum
Yep.
Master.
Okay. Then I have the last question for you today. So for the audience who like to learn more about Scrum, right? So what are your advice for them? For example, how should they get started, or any recommendation in terms of certifications? Because just now you did mention some certifications, right?
Yep.
So what are the certifications they can, explore and things like that?
Yeah. So I would love to share my experience when I was started doing and knowing Agile. So
Mhm.
I think as of now we can get a lot of resources. And when I was start as a Scrum Master, so I was a lot in using YouTube. I think a lot of resources we can do from YouTube, right? And then Google it. Oh,
And
what
it's
is
free.
Agile? Yeah, and it's free. Of course, it's free. But then last time when I was already working, and then I think that I need to do something about this Agile. It can't be
Mm.
like just me, that go through with the YouTube. Of course, it helps. Of course, it gives me some idea about what is this ceremony is all about and those things. But how I level up myself during that time. So I go to the courses.
Mhm.
First course I joined, it's PSM. It was a PSM1. PSM1 professional Scrum Master. Yeah. So that is the certifications that I took. And I deep dive into the PSM2.
Mhm.
And then after that, I level up to other certifications, like we do have ICP, Agile coaching, and those things. So I
Mm.
think the basic things, the first thing, the baby step. So understanding the PSM one, it's a lot of new knowledge or new informations that can give you a lot of informations in your daily the practices as a Scrum Master. So I started with that. I take the courses in Udemy application, and then so that is where I started. Because when you start to learn that from the expertise, like you join the courses and then you can relate back with your daily work. Because last time that I have no idea whether what I'm doing is actually correct or not. So when I started
Mhm.
to join the course, and then I started to understand, oh, okay, so that is actually something that I can relate back to my work, and then now it makes
Mhm.
sense. So that is where the journey I started. So I recommend that maybe if you guys doesn't want to that with the paid courses. So those things just now as Jeremy mentioned. So it's a free resources. You can go to YouTube and then learn, okay, what is Scrum Master do, and then what is the first step. So I would start it with that first, then for the YouTube and also the Google, which is for the free stuff on the resources we can learn.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, Norhidayah, I'd like to thank you for taking your time to join this episode. It's my
Yep.
pleasure to have you. Hope to see you again
Yes.
soon.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much, Norhidayah.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Jeremy. See you. Bye.